Okay, hola a todos, regresamos con nuestro evento, nuestro primer congreso en ciencia de datos. El conferencista que viene ahora nos acompaña desde Canadá. Voy a hacer la presentación del Dr. Prashant en inglés. Voy a hacer la presentación del Dr. Prashant en inglés. Su presentación será en inglés, pero se tendrá traducción en simultánea durante su presentación. Siéntanse libre también de hacer las preguntas. Es nuestro Keynote speaker, entonces voy a dar la introducción al Dr. Prashant y siéntanse libre de hacer las preguntas durante el desarrollo de su conferencia. Okay? Now let me start in English. Now we continue with the development of the first Data Science Congress. Now we have the keynote talk for us, the Escuela Colombiana de Ingeniería, Colombia and Latin America. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Prashant with us. Dr. Prashant is our keynote speaker. Let me read a short presentation about him. One moment, please, because he has an extensive profile. Okay. He's Dr. Prashant. Basically, is the founder and managing principal of DVP Institute and Data Analytics Consulting, research and education firms based in Calgary, Canada. He is consultant, author, and keynote speaker, board member, and professor of data and analytics. He is advisor and worked over 80 organizations, including Procter & Gamble, General Electric, Shell, FedEx, and Apple. He is author of the 3 important books about data science, data analysis, data for business performance, analytics, best practice, and data quality. And he writes regularly on data analytics, machine learning in Forbes, and CFO University. Don't forget that during our Congress, we shuffled with lottery some of them. This is Dr. Prashant is the author of this book. He served on the editorial board of the MIT Symposium and is advisor on different editorials. Apart from his consulting and advisor pursuits, he trained over 3,500 professionals around the world in topics of data and analytics. Okay, about your academic profile, he holds a PhD from Lille School of Lille in France, an MBA from Kellogg School of Management in the United States, master from Bangladesh, is located in India, and designation of the Roman School of Management in Canada. And now this is the last important aspect of Dr. Prashant, and he was mentioned as the most influential leaders in the tech to follow in 2023. Okay, for us, it's a pleasure to have here with our event, Dr. Prashant. Dr. Prashant, welcome to our Congress. Thank you for the opportunity. And for us, it's a good opportunity to know different knowledge from your experience. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Wilmer, and thank you everybody for coming to this presentation. I'm pretty excited. This is the first time I'm actually interacting with people from Colombia. So I'm very excited to share my thoughts, at the same time learn from you. I'm very interested to look at your questions. Of course, you can ask in English or in Spanish, and Wilmer will translate that to English, and he'll ask me. But keep posting your questions in the Q&A sessions, and we will filter it based on the time we have and depending on the repeated questions, so on and so forth. So again, I would request everybody, given that it's a virtual conference, please mute your microphone so that there is no crosstalks, there is no disturbance from the surroundings, so that we all enjoy this presentation. So give me 1 second, Wilmer. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, perfect. Don't forget, please, Dr. Prashant, to start the translation of the PowerPoint.
Yes. I think it should be good. Wilmer, are you able to see the subtitles in Spanish as well?
Yes. You're right. Yes, okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So again, my talk is on how do you get good quality data for improved business performance. So I'll talk more from the context from analytics so that you can see how data quality really matters in analytics. So this is about me. I don't want to go further. Wilmer has given a very nice introduction, pretty much the same slides. But what I did was, given that we are all in the world of AI and ChatGPT, I asked ChatGPT, who is this guy? Who is Prashant Sautekal? And this is the response from ChatGPT. So in fact, I have not put this profile anywhere else. ChatGPT has compiled it from different sources, I believe, and it has put its own intelligence and it can come up with this response. So this looks pretty good. In fact, as most of you know, ChatGPT looks at data till 2021. My third book is not here, but pretty much apart from that, most of the information which is presented in ChatGPT is pretty good, pretty accurate. I will accept it as the person in question here. So this is my career journey. I just want to talk a little bit about it so that you get a little bit of a context and perspective about my talk. As Wilmer was talking about, there are different points in time in my career journey which have played a big influence in shaping my career. I would call them as the milestone. So on the top, it's all about my academic journey, and at the bottom portion of this line is my industry experience. So I did my master's in India from IIIT in Bangalore. Then I moved to Belgium. Then while I was working, I also started doing my PhD at Catholic University of Leuven, that's close to Brussels. Then I took a very long time to complete. I changed my guide, I had to change my university and everything. And after almost 14 years, I completed my PhD from France. Then after my PhD, I did my MBA from Northwestern Kellogg. And then I did my ICD, which is one of the courses that is required to become an independent director for companies in Canada. So this is my academic journey. So it's lifelong learning. It's not something that you are done with your studies and you go to work. But in today's world, it's all about being continuously updating your skills and knowledge. So that's what I believe in. So this is my professional experience. So when I started my PhD at KU Leuven in 2001, I joined Procter & Gamble. So it was my part-time PhD I was doing. Then for family reasons, I moved back to India. I joined GE in India. Then I joined SAP in Canada, in Calgary. Then in 2012, I left SAP and went on my own and started my own company, which I'm currently managing or running. So in 2017, I published my first book, which is Data for Business Performance, which gave me a good break into this thought leadership and keynote talks and everything. Then I joined IE Business School, which is in Madrid. Whatever little bit Spanish I know is through my experience being in Madrid and Spain. So I'm a professor at IE since 2019, not a full-time professor, an adjunct professor where I teach the analytics course there. And then I published my second book, which is Analytics Best Practices, which is ranked as the best analytics book of all time in 2022. Then this year I published my third book, which is on data quality. So this is the big milestones of my career, both on the academic front as well as on the industry or experience front. So let's get into the topic today. I have broken down these presentations into three main topics. The first one is data and business value. The second section would be on how do you get good quality data, given that we need quality data to get good insights. Garbage in is garbage out. We have heard this a million times. So what can we do to have good quality data? And then I'll talk about a case study on a project which I did for a company in US, in western part of the US, on how we did analytics to improve the profitability of a company. So before I go further, Wilmer, can you hear me well? Is it loud and clear?
Yes, Professor. The sound is good.
Okay, perfect.
Everything is good.
Yeah, okay, good. So now my question to all of you before we start. So what are the costs, both the direct, which is COGS related, and the indirect, which is all the SG&A, marketing, general administration, payroll, and everything, in a typical bank? So you can take a bank, whether it's a TD Bank in Canada, or the Deutsche Bank in Germany, or the State Bank of India in India, whichever bank it is, or any bank even in Colombia. what percentage of the cost is attributed to data management? So type your answers in the Q&A box. So if you think that the bank is spending $100 million to run its operations, how much of that $100 million is spent on data management? Just on data, what would be that answer? So you can type your answers in the Q&A box where I will see what those responses are.
Yes, we don't receive any answer. Can you repeat,
okay,
please, the question, maybe?
The question is, if $100 million is spent by a bank to run its business, how much of that money is spent just on data management? I see somebody posting it as 20%.
Yes, 20%. One anonymous user writes a 20%.
Okay, so somebody said 52%. Okay, 30 to 40. I'll just wait for one more answer. 50. Okay, so I'll stop. Let me go back to my slides. So, Wilmar, are you able to see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, so great answers, good answers. Research by MIT says that the cost that is associated with data management in a bank is about 92%. So imagine a bank, whether it's in Colombia or Argentina or Madrid or Germany or India or China, 92% of the cost is going for data management. So that brings an interesting point. So what is the impact of data in a business? For example, if you look at TD Bank, is it a bank or is it a data company? Given that 92% of the cost in a bank is on data management. Is Expedia. So when you go for a travel, you book your tickets through Expedia. Is it a data company or is it a travel agency? So remove data from Expedia. Expedia is practically useless. Nobody would go there. So you might be thinking, is it a travel agency or is it a data company? So if you look at the S&P index, which is all the top 500 companies in the United States, and how the valuation is is assessed today, in 1975, that means almost like 50 years back, that means just 17% of the valuation was on intangible assets, such as your data, such as your brand, such as your intellectual property, and so on and so forth. But if you look at 2025, that means after almost like 40 years later, 87% of the valuation of those companies, the top 500 companies in the United States, is based on intangible assets. So that means intangible assets such as data, intellectual property, software, and all those things are making a big impact on the way the valuation of the company is looking at. So that means every company today is a data company. So it's not my words, it has been said by other people too. So if you look at Goldman Sachs, one of the big companies in North America, the CEO of Goldman Sachs said, we are a technology company. We are not a bank per se, we are a technology company. If you look at John Deere, which is into agriculture, they say we are revolutionizing farming or agriculture with big data. Novartis is also talking about data and analytics. Lego, when I was a child, when I was a small boy, like I used to play with Lego toys. But even today, my children also play with Lego toys. So that means Lego has remained relevant even today. And they say the reason for that is because of the way they have used data and analytics. Good Life Fitness is one of the biggest fitness chain in Canada. And they say that they are using data and analytics to build their reputation and branding and everything. And Real Madrid, and I'm pretty sure most of you love football being in Latin America. Real Madrid, like when I was in Spain, I went to the stadium, Real Madrid Stadium, and even there was a presentation on how Real Madrid is using data and analytics to win their football games. So whether you're talking about business, whether you're talking about non-profits, whether you're talking about sports, whether you talk politics, or every industry today is leveraging data and analytics for getting improved business performance. So what are the benefits? So is it just capturing and storing data makes you data driven? What are the benefits of data analytics? Overall, there are three major benefits of data analytics. Number one, is to improve your decision-making capabilities. Particularly on that, Harvard Business School made a study and they found that if you're using data to make decisions, you are 56% more effective in making those decisions. Forrester, which is an analyst company, says that organizations which are using data for decision making are 3 times more likely to achieve double-digit growth. So that means you are using analytics, and from there you are deriving the insights. You are going to improve your decision-making capabilities. Number 2, you can grow the company if you are leveraging data and analytics. McKinsey said that if you are using data analytics, you will have about 6% increase in profit. This is at the bottom line, the net profit of a company, not at the top line, at the bottom line. If you look at Yahoo Finance, if you look at the top 5 companies in the world in terms of market capitalization, it's all the digital and the data companies, popularly known as the FAANG, F-A-A-M-G, which stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So people are saying that you can add Netflix on top of it. But overall, if you look at all the top 5 companies in the world in terms of market capitalization, it's all the digital and the data companies. Boston Consulting Group, which is another consulting company, they said top 10 companies which are most innovative in the world are all data and digital firms. So if you look at data analytics, they also provide improved opportunities for growth. And lastly, it improves your operational efficiency. It can help you reduce cost. It can help you minimize risk. So within that section, MIT did a study and they found that organizations which use data analytics are 26% more profitable than their peers. McKinsey did one more study and they say that you are more likely to acquire customers if you are using data and analytics for improved business growth. Given that my company itself is a data company, we have been using data in a very small way, but in an effective way. And we have seen how it has improved our company as well. So overall, whether you talk about a small company like mine or a huge company like Walmart or Shell, everybody is seeing the benefits of data and analytics. But it's not that it's given for granted. Just storing and capturing data doesn't make you data driven. So there are many challenges associated with data and analytics as well. Gartner, which is a big industry analyst company, they said that over 80% of the data analytics projects fail. VentureBeat, which is also a media company, they did a study and they found that 87% of the data analytics models never go to production. You are just doing a proof of concept, you are doing development, but the business people actually don't want it. So that means a lot of effort that has been spent in building a data analytics model will never be used by the business. McKinsey did a study and they found that users spend 2 hours in a day just searching for data. So imagine in a day, 2 hours, that means 25% of your time, you're just searching for data. Forget about utilizing it, just searching. So that's a real waste of time at work. Harvard Business Review did a study and they found that just 3% of the data meet data quality standards. That means quality standards, not data quality per se, about the standards. Experian, Gartner, and today we are talking about ESG, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance, where we are talking about sustainability. We are talking about reduced carbon footprint, so on and so forth. And companies are saying that 90% of the data that is there in a company is never used for any business purposes, which is a research done by IBM and Carnegie Mellon. So overall, there is a lot of benefits on data and analytics, but at the same time, very few companies are successful in getting the value out of data and analytics. We did a project in our company, and we found that almost 90% of the people who participated in the survey said that they don't have good quality data. So overall, quality data is a huge problem in the company. So now this brings us to the next section. Now we talked about data, business value, the need for quality. What can you do to get good quality data in your company? So I'll talk about strategies for having good quality data. So the first thing is, if you want to have good quality data, you have to be proactive. A lot of data quality issues which we see in organizations are visible. They're like straightforward, but many issues are hidden. You can't really say it. So that's why we have so much of issues with data quality and the consequences and the repercussions of poor data quality when the issues really surface. So when you talk about the cost of data quality, you can break down into 3 major areas. I call it as a 1-10-100 rule. What is it? If you are able to prevent the data quality issues from happening when you initially found it, that means you will be spending just $1 or 1x dollar. For example, if you miss it and somebody within your company, internal in the company, finds that issue, of course there is going to be more cost, but it's going to be 10x the cost or $10 more. But if the problem goes outside the company and if the customer finds the problem and he reports the problem to you, you would be spending 100x the cost. So that means you have an option. You have an option to be proactive or you have an option to be reactive. If you are proactive, you will be spending just 1x the cost. If you are reactive, you will be spending 100 times more cost than what you would spend. So it's always better to be proactive so that you fix the issue so that you are not disappointing your customers, so on and so forth. So this is the 1-10-100 rule of data quality. Either you be proactive and spend just 1x the cost or be reactive and ultimately spend 100 times the more cost. So what can you do to make sure that you just spend 1x the cost? What is the solution? The solution is the framework which I have written in my book on data quality. A lucky winner will get this book from Wilmer. So I call it as the DARS framework. What is it? It stands for define the problem or define the data quality problem. Assess the level of data quality. That means what is the impact of having poor data quality? Number 3, realize the solution. That means fix the problem. And lastly, once you fix the problem, make sure that it doesn't go back to the initial state. Sustain it, govern it, so that we don't have the problem occurring once again. So this is the DARS framework. Define, assess, realize, and sustain. So in the interest of time, I'll not go through the whole book, but I'll just take some very important sections from these 4 phases and explain you what this DARS framework is all about. So let's start first with the define phase. First is define quality or define the data quality. What is data quality? How do you define data quality? Basically, businesses need data for 3 main reasons. Number 1, to run their operations. Number 2, for your compliance activities. And third one, for analytics or decision making and so on and so forth. Let's take a simple example. Let's take you are in the procurement department of a company and you want to buy 100 ball bearings. So issue a purchase order for a vendor to supply 100 quantities of ball bearings. Why did you do this? Because you want a record of what has been ordered. You want to know out of this 100 quantities, how much has been supplied, how much is yet to be delivered, so on and so forth. This is all the document or information which you need to run your operations. Number 2, this is also a compliance document. If something goes wrong between you and your supplier, you can rely on this purchase order and sort out the problem and say, hey, you said for 100 quantities, the price per ball bearing is going to be $10. Now I see that invoice, I was expecting $10 times 100 quantities, about $1,000, but I see the invoice is $2,000. So what's wrong here? So now you go back to the purchase order and sort out the dispute. So the purchase order or the purchase order data is also a compliance document. And thirdly, let's say you have issued 1,000 purchase orders for different vendors for the same component of ball bearing. Now you can mine the data from this 1,000 purchase orders and start looking at insights or patterns. One of the patterns could be the more quantity I ordered, the unit price is decreasing. So that's where you leverage analytics. So when I ask this question to many of my students and companies, why do you need data in your company? Most of them say it's for analytics, decision making. That's a partial answer. That's an incomplete answer. A full answer is you need data for your business for 3 main reasons: for operations, compliance, and analytics. So these are the 3 reasons for which you need data to run in your company. And when you say the data is of high quality, that means they're fit for use for operations, compliance, and for analytics or decision making. These are the 3 main reasons why you need data. And when the three purposes are served, you can say the data quality is good. So now when we say data, how do we capture the data? What data are we talking about? So broadly in a company, in the business, there are 4 types of data: zero party data, first party data, second party, and third party data. Zero party data is the data about the prospects. Let's take you are in a marketing company. You are a marketing executive, and every day you are doing cold calls. You're meeting some people for lunch, for coffee and everything, and hoping that one of these people will become your customer. But during all the interactions, cold calling, meetings, conferences, and everything, you see some potential opportunity to work with them. So you are capturing the data. That data of the potential customer, which is the prospects, or it could be even on the procurement side. Say you are asking some information on an SAP implementation, and many vendors are responding to that question, which could be Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, and all those companies. But you are capturing that information. You don't have any relationship with those entities. And that kind of data is called as the zero party data, which is all the data about your prospects, potential vendors, so on and so forth, where you don't have any relationship with those entities. The next type of data is the first party data. First party data is all the data which you have used for, or which you are using for operations, compliance, and for analytics. For example, it could be the purchase order data. It could be the sales order, invoices, remittances, all those things which you have created internally to run your business. The next one is the second party data, which is the data about you, which your partners are capturing. What does this mean? Let's take HP. HP does laptops, and the laptops are sold in many retail chains like Walmart, like Best Buy, and all those things. Like I'm talking about the North American context. So when you go to Best Buy and buy the HP laptop, so Best Buy collects a lot of information about you, about the product of HP you are buying. So when you look at HP's perspective, they don't have much data about you on how we are using their product. So this data which Best Buy is having about you, about their parties, which is needed for HP, is called as the second party data. It doesn't have to be just HP and Best Buy. Let's take Procter & Gamble, for example, which sells a lot of consumable products like dishwashers, washing soaps, and all those things. And Procter & Gamble's products are sold through Walmart. So all the data about P&G's product which are bought by the customers are held by Walmart. So that would be the second party data of P&G. Let's talk about L'Oreal and Sephora, for example, for the girls who like makeup and fashion. So all the data about L'Oreal's product are sold via Sephora retail stores. So the Sephora's data would be the second party data for L'Oreal, who would be very much interested in having the data about who is buying those products, so on and so forth. And the last one is the third party data. Many data which a company needs, like on economic front, on weather side, and all those things they are not capturing. So when they need that kind of data, what they do? They go and buy it as a data product. So they buy it from a third party companies and use it for their internal operations, compliance, and analytics. So overall, when I ask my clients, what are the different types of data? Most of them talk about the first party data, like orders, contracts, invoices, remittances, so on and so forth. But unfortunately, not much attention is given to zero party data, second party data, and third party data. In my experience, first party data is about 50% of the data footprint, or even less. The zero party, second party, and third party data is the remaining 50%. So you are just looking at one half of the data and completely ignoring the other part of the data which is there. So make sure that when you talk about business data for operations, compliance, and analytics, you are looking at all the 4 types of data to make it complete. So let's look at from analytics perspective. So when we look at the 3 purposes of data, operations, compliance, and analytics, from operations and compliance, what you need is good quality data. But from analytics, the data itself is practically useless. What you need is insights. So let's look at the characteristics from the left side and on the right side. If you look at the purposes of data for operations and compliance, it is defined and predictable. The data is in a native format. So if you talk about Oracle or if you talk about SAP, the data is captured in a proprietary format in the native application. And the focus is on business processes. You want to run procurement and you are capturing data to run your procurement operations. Whereas analytics is very different. It is hypothesis based. It all depends on the questions which you are asking. Based on the power of the questions, sometimes the insights will be really powerful, or sometimes insights will be very simple. Data might be there, data might not be there. Especially when you're doing predictive analytics, so looking at analytics into the future, there is a good chance that the data might not be there. So in that case, what you say? Oh, well, the data quality is poor. But remember, the data is still captured for operations and compliance. Data is often not captured for analytics. So your purpose is changing. So that means the data quality is also, the standards for data quality is also changing. The data is needed in a structured format. Most of the data that is captured in the companies these days is unstructured data. I call it as the TAVI data, text, audio, video, and images. But sadly, this information cannot be used for analytics. For analytics, you need the data in the right structure so that you can run your models and derive those insights. Let's take simple example, multiple linear regression. When you look at linear regression, the dependent variable and the independent variable need to be numeric in nature. So that structure has to be given so that you can run your MLR models. If the data is not in the right structure and is in the image format or a text format, it is practically useless for MLR. And the goal is insights. I want to know more insights so that I can get to know more about my business, my companies, my customers, and so on and so forth. So let's look at data quality and the questions which you have. So let's take a simple example of Starbucks. Starbucks, most of you might be knowing, is one of the big coffee shops in Canada and US. So I'll take, and there might be many coffee shops in Colombia and Bogota as well. So I'll just take a simple example of a coffee shop. In my case, it is Starbucks. So let's take, you are part of the data science team in Starbucks. You have a question now. The question is, can I find out sales by location? Okay, interesting question. The answer is good. I can find out based on which sales Starbucks store is making more money, what they are selling, so on and so forth. Now I have another question. Sales by customer's age. This is a little bit difficult. How do I find out the customer's age? If he has a loyalty card, there could be a possibility that he has entered his date of birth and I can derive the age. But many people who walk to Starbucks don't have the loyalty card. Even if they have the loyalty card, they won't have put their date of birth and all those things. So this is almost like a 50-50 chance. There is a possibility I might get it, or there is a possibility I might not have this answer. Now I have one more question. Sales by weather. I have a hypothesis saying that when it snows here, people come and have coffee. When it's cold weather, people have coffee, and when it is warm, people have a cold drink. Okay, great question, but do I have data about the weather? Most likely not. Starbucks would not be capturing the data about the weather. So in that case, based on the question which you have, the insight complexity varies. So if you look at on the y-axis, the insight complexity, and x-axis, the data complexity, so and map it to high and low, when the data availability is low, the insight complexity might be inversely proportional or high. So overall, the question complexity is inversely proportional to the data that is available. So the more powerful questions you are asking, there is a good chance that data might not be available. So you need to work on analytics. So or based on the data that is available, or if the data is not available, what is your plan B, so on and so forth. So overall, the key questions which we have today is no data better than bad data, especially for analytics? So think about this question and see if you have any thoughts about this. Say a company which has got very poor quality data. Is it worse than having no data at all? Is zero better than being negative? So something like that. So think about this question is no data better than bad data in analytics. So the second part of the DARS framework, as I said earlier, DARS stands for define the data quality problem, assess the data quality, number 3, realize, and lastly, sustain. So now we look at the second aspect, which is the data quality. So when you look at the data quality dimensions, in my experience, I found 12 dimensions of data quality where you can assess to see whether the data quality is good or not. So in the interest of time, I'll not go through all the 12 dimensions. In fact, I have listed out in my book, but I'll just pick 2 data quality dimensions. One is accuracy, next is correctness, which is on the bottom right side, which is basically 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock circles. So if you look at correctness, correctness is absolute, which is yes or no. Like for example, the telephone number needs to be correct. Even a 1-digit issue in the telephone number makes the data practically useless. Whereas accuracy need not be 100% accurate, need not be 100% correct. For example, if you look at the address, for example, even if I change the address from street to ST, is not a big deal. The postman will identify this. So ideally, accuracy needs to go towards correctness. But even if there is even if that absolute level of compliance is not there, pretty much if you are able to achieve 80–90%, this is good enough. So many times people think that the accuracy and correctness are one and the same, but they are not. Correctness is absolute, yes or no, it's Boolean in nature, whereas accuracy has got a degree of correctness. It could be even with 50%, you might be good enough, or even if 99%, you might be good enough. So to go from 50% to 90%, there is a huge cost that is associated to achieve the level of data quality. So which data to assess? So now we talked about the 12 key dimensions. Now what data to pick? So overall, when we talk about the data to pick, it is an intersection. It's a Venn diagram of 2 major elements. Number 1, the transactional data. Number 2, the critical data element, CDE. Let's look first at the transactional data. Why business transactions really matter? It deals with business resources. Any transaction data you take, whether it's a purchase orders or invoices or anything, it deals with business resources like quantity, time, location, so on and so forth. It deals with money. A purchase order is practically useless if there is no money associated with that. It has got a relationship. That means there is a buyer and seller associated with this purchase order data. It hits the GL. That means it has got a 2-fold impact on accounting. And finally, it promotes performance management and decision making. I wrote a Forbes blog on this about transactional data on these 5 points. So if you are interested, you can read my blog. Now let's take which data to assess. So now you have a transactional data, and how much of the transactional data should you be assessing? So I was working for a transportation company in Canada, and I asked them, how many customers do you have? They said 500,000. So in my customer database, I have 500,000 customer records. I said, oh my gosh, this is really bad. Tell me, in the last 18 months, out of this 500,000 customer records, how many customers did you do business with? The answer came down to 1,700. So you have 1,700 customers with whom you did business in the last 18 months, but you had 500,000 customers in your database. So many times what happens is people look at this 500,000 number, but most of those data records are redundant, are useless, are never used. What really matters is transactional data, because that's important for these 5 reasons. So once you have those 1,700 customers and look at the transactional data, then you can carve out the critical data elements. What are these critical data elements? So broadly, you can look at the data in any data record as a combination of 3 major categories. Reference data is all about categories. Master data is about entities, and transactional data, which we discussed earlier, is about events. Reference data could be your plants, your stores, your chart of accounts, and all those things. Master data could be your entities, such as your customers, vendors, GL accounts, and so on. And transactional data is about the events that are a function of time, like your purchase orders, like your maintenance records, and all those things. But when we have this transactional data, which is just what is relevant, like in our previous example, just 1,700 customers, you map those transactional data to the respective reference and master data. So you just work on ensuring that the critical data elements are relevant for those transactional data elements, and ensuring that you are assessing the data quality of the critical data elements pertaining to the transactional data. It's an intersection of both. So let's go back to the transactional data, which is purchase order quality, which is one of the attributes which we are looking at, and we can look at different measures to analyze them. So based on the univariate analysis, bivariate, multivariate, so on and so forth. So here I have taken the univariate analysis of one attribute called PO quality, and looking at different parameters on measures of centrality and variation. So the third thing is realize. As I said earlier, DARS has got 4 components: define, assess, realize, and sustain. Now we'll talk about realizing the data quality for analytics. So when we talk about the data science algorithms, there are many ways in which these algorithms can be defined. If you are measurement focused, you can classify them into descriptive, what happened; predictive, what will happen; prescriptive, what are the factors that will cause a particular event to happen; variable focus, supervision, data type, results focused, and all the different ways of looking at the data science algorithms, which I call it as a data analytics fabric. But now when you look at the data analytics algorithms or the data science algorithm, let's pick one thing which is all variable focused. How does it work? So you need those kind of attributes to make it happen. So if you look at analytics based on the number of variables, broadly you can classify them into 3 types: univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. Univariate, you are analyzing one variable; bivariate, you are looking at 2; multivariate, it could be more than 2. The example could be just quantity sold, which is I want to analyze this particular attribute. So in that case, it's going to be univariate. If I had to look at bivariate, like for example, quantity sold versus product price, I can do some analysis on that, which could be on correlation, whether it's Pearson, Spearman's, and all those things. And if it's multivariate, where I can do some MLR work on this, say if I have an problem on quantity sold, which is a function of the sales calls that has been made, the sales manager's experience, who is making that call, is he very experienced or not, and the price of the product and all those things. And we can use a bunch of data visualization technique to understand those insights more. Like if you look at univariate, you can put histogram, box whisker plot, everything. Whereas if you look at multivariate, you can put heat maps, trellis charts, and so on and so forth. So when you talk about the analysis of those variables, it all depends on the kind of data analytics techniques that are available based on the resources that's been used. Lastly, the 4th phase of DARS is about sustain. Sustain is about data governance. In many places I go, my clients tell me, Prashant, this data governance is very bureaucratic. It's expensive. It is policing of your people and all those things. So I said, true, that's all there. But it's like if you don't do data quality, you have to sustain it. The data quality degrades by about 2 to 7% every month. So basically, what is data governance? It is managing your data in the system of record in the entire data lifecycle. We'll talk about system of record and data lifecycle soon, but it's basically data governance is ensuring that the right people are managing the data in the right way. It's about managing data democratization and data protection, which we will see what it is soon. So how do we do the sustaining activities? How do you do data governance? Basically, 2 major factors need to be considered. Number 1, where you do it. Number 2, how you do it. Where you do it in your system of record. What is the system of record? It is that system which has an authoritative data source, which we call it as a golden record, the most accurate and the correct value. For example, if you say purchase orders is all done in your SAP ERP, that would be your system of record. So, but when it comes to analytics, the system of truth or system of record is often the data warehouse. Some people say it's data lake, some people call data mart, some people these days are calling it a lake house, and so on and so forth. But overall, it is it is the most common system that is used for analytics is the data warehouse. And how is it done? It is done in all the 4 stages of the data analytics lifecycle. And what are the 4 stages? Number 1, data capture. Number 2, data engineering or data integration. Number 3, data science. And next, number 4, decision science. Data governance is not something you do it once and you just forget it. You do it throughout the process where the data actually moves throughout the data lifecycle. And these are the 4 stages of the data lifecycle. So there is a lot of discussions these days about data democratization and protection. So people, especially from the analytics team, they say, oh, we don't get the data, we are not able to derive insights and so on and so forth. So my thought here is that if unauthorized and untrained people are given access to critical data, so it's going to be a big issue for the company. But at the same time, if you protect your data too much, it can kill innovation and it can hamper your business improvement activities. So overall, there has to be a balance between the two. And who works on ensuring that balance? It is the data governance team. It works on balancing data democratization and data protection. So with this, the 4 stages being discussed: define, assess, realize, and sustain. Let's talk about a simple case study where we worked on leveraging the quality data that's there in a company and help them make more money, help them make more profits. So the 3rd section is going to be on a case study. So we use a methodology called as a power of 1. So what is this power of 1? You don't have to think really big. You can just focus on 1 where it could be 1% increase in price, 1 day reduction in cost, and so on and so forth. So how did I get this? So this is by reading a book called Atomic Habits. So if you don't have this book or if you have not read this book, I would strongly encourage you to buy this book. Even if you don't buy my book, that's fine. I'll not be sad. But I would strongly suggest you to buy this book. It's an excellent book. So even the British cycling team, they used this book and they said in the Rio Olympics in 2008, I believe, they got a lot of some medals in cycling by implementing some of the strategies that's been listed in this book. So I read this book and I really liked the power of 1 concept. So I said, let's focus on this power of 1 in analytics and see what we can do just by increasing the price of a product by 1, reducing cost by 1%, improving the net promoter score or NPS by 1, and so on. So we do it in 4 stages. One is we define the problem. We look at what's the impact of the problem. We look at recommendations and ultimately the solutions. And for the client, we said, let's do this whole project into 3 major phases: descriptive analytics, what happened; predictive analytics, what will happen; and prescriptive analytics, what are the factors which will make it happen. So let's take a simple example about these 3 types of analytics. Nancy is the CFO and Bob is a data scientist. Nancy goes to Bob and says, hey Bob, in 2020, how much money we made? Bob says, Nancy, I can get this information from my ERP system. Give me for half an hour, I'll come back to you. After 30 minutes, Bob goes to Nancy. Nancy says, for the year 2020, we made $350 million. Nancy says, Bob, thank you very much. Assuming business conditions remain the same, what will happen in 2024? What will be our revenues in 2024? Bob says, Nancy, I need to do predictive analytics. Let me go to my desk. I'll run some trend analysis, time series analysis, regression, everything, and I'll come back to you in about 2 hours. After 2 hours, Bob goes to Nancy's desk and says, hey, Nancy, assuming business conditions remain the same from 2020 to 2024, we will make $375 million. Nancy looks disappointed. Nancy tells Bob, hey, Bob, my CEO tells me that we have to make $400 million. Can you tell me what should I do to make it happen? Bob thinks about this question. He's saying, Nancy is asking those factors which will make it happen, which will help her get $400 million. Bob tells Nancy, Nancy, give me 2 hours. I'll go and run some prescriptive analytics models, then run some linear programming, simplex, optimization, scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, all those things, and I'll come back to you in 2 hours. After 2 hours, Bob shows up in Nancy's office. He says, hey, Nancy, if you have to make $400 million, there are 3 factors which you have to take care. He said, what is that? Number 1, it's about the price. Number 2, the quantity of the things that is sold. Number 3, you have to reduce your cost. Nancy says, thank you very much, Bob. This was what I was looking for. So if you look at the conversation that's happening between Bob, the inside producer or our data scientist, and Nancy, who is the inside consumer or our CFO, it is a continuum. It is a conversation that's happening between the two. It is not like a siloed thing that is happening. As soon as Nancy and Bob gave Nancy the information for 2020, Nancy didn't go away. She started asking more and more questions. So all said and done, analytics is about asking the questions, and the answers for those questions come from these 3 types of analytics: descriptive, what happened; predictive, what will happen; and prescriptive, what are the factors that will cause a particular event to happen. So the first question we had for the client is, what percentage of SKUs or the stock keeping units generate 80% of the revenue? Similarly, what percentage of the customers generate 80% of the revenue? We ran Pareto analysis on the sales data for the last 18 months, and we said, you might be having 480 SKUs, but 17 SKUs really matter. They give you 80% of the revenues. What about customers? You might be having 1,600 customers, but only 28 customers generated 80% of the revenue. This was really an eye-opener for the management team. So there was so much of noise in the company, 1,600 customers, we had to talk to them, we had to talk to these customers and everything. But what really mattered is to take care of these 28 customers and work on the 17 SKUs. Number 2, predictive analytics. Predictive analytics is all about the future. We said, assuming business conditions remain the same, what is the revenue from these 17 SKUs and 28 customers for the next 18 months? We ran regression analysis and we said for the next 18 months, the predicted revenue from these customers will increase by 4.6%. Okay, good. Now can we increase the profit by increasing the price by 1%? So we ran scenario planning, what if analysis, sensitivity analysis, and we said if you increase the price by just 1% for the 17 SKUs for these 28 customers, our profits will go up by 8.2%. So you don't have to think about all the customers and all the products, just 17 customers and your profits will go up by 8.2%. So this is how the analytics will help. So that brings me to the end of my last slide, 5 key takeaways. The case for analytics is the power of visibility, because visibility creates value. It could be on anything. It could be even on your marks, the marks which you are getting from your professors. Those marks are kind of the visibility of your performance. So you look at your marks and you say out of 100 points, I got 60. Now I need to improve. I need to take my marks from 60 to 80. So what is it I can do? So the scores which you got is about analytics, is about data. Now you have to come up with an action plan. The same thing about your health. You go to your doctor and you get a medical report done, and the medical report says that your cholesterol levels are a little bit high. So from that data, you can come up with a plan on how you can improve the value, how you can improve your health and create value. So data analytics is all about the power of visibility, because when you get to know something about it, you can come up with the plan and create value. Move up the analytics continuum. There is no point in talking about the past. Descriptive analytics, how much revenue we made in 2015, 2018, 2020, that's all past, that's all okay. But what we need is about the future. How much money we are going to get in 2024, in 2028. Suppose, for example, I tell you, hey, for example, you want to go on a vacation to Hawaii, but I can tell you what's the weather in Hawaii in December. But which December? 2018. I don't care about 2018 weather in Hawaii in 2018, because I'm planning my vacation to Hawaii in the summer of in December of 2023. Can you tell me what's going to be the weather in Hawaii in December of 2023? So the value is always in predictive analytics about future, because you can plan and do something about it. You can plan and respond rather than looking at something on past, which is just theory. Critical data and events and transactional data are the linchpin for data quality. Look at my DARTS framework for improving the data quality. The DARTS framework stands for define the data quality problem, assess the data quality standards which you have, realize the problem or fix the problem, and lastly sustain the governance so that the things don't go back to the initial state. And ultimately, data analytics is all about change. It's not just about technology, it's about process, data, of course, technology and the people. So thank you very much for your time. So I look at your questions, and Wilmer will translate it for me, but I'm pretty active in LinkedIn. So this is the QR code for my LinkedIn. Please take a picture and send me a connection in request, or else you can even follow me in LinkedIn. But my favorite quote is that, keep your customer in the center of the organization, because if you know what the customer wants, most of the requirements on analytics will fall in place. So make sure that you focus on your customers. Thank you very much for your time. I'll just pause for 5 seconds for you to turn on your camera and scan the QR codes if you want to send a LinkedIn connection request to me.
Okay, Professor Prashant, thank you. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity. The knowledge is very prepared for us. Okay, we have different questions in the public. The public, don't forget, you can send the questions in Spanish, and we translate to Professor Prashant. We have one question from Christian Moron. Christian Moron said, you can read this?
Yeah, it's in English. Yeah, it's a great comment, Christian. I think bad data is worse than no data. Absolutely. From an analytics perspective, I think bad data is worse than worse data. I can list out a couple of reasons. The first thing is it takes a lot of time to clean the bad data. So you'll be losing a lot of effort. That's number one. Next, number two, there could be a lot of biases in the data, in the bad data which you have, because you have captured it in some way and there could be biases and everything. So when I talk about bad data, it includes biases as well. So overall, I think I'm aligned with what you are saying. I think especially for analytics, bad data might be worse than no data. If you don't have any data at all, you can start with scratch. Like I have in my book, I have put a chapter on what you can do when you don't have data at all. When there's no data, what are the strategies? Where I talked about numerical analysis, where I talk about data imputation methods, which is Gregory Newton's, Lagrange's interpolation, extrapolation, regression, and all those techniques. So if you have bad data, I personally think it's going to be worse than having no data at all. So I agree with you, Christian. So I'm looking at some of the other questions as well. If it is in English, I'll quickly take it. Wilmer, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you. Please, we have more questions. Now we have now. Okay, we have another question. You can read, please. It's in English, doctor.
Yeah. What advice to just studying data science? Okay. So okay, let me. Oh, it immediately goes back to published. Okay. What to study data science? So Jesus is a good question. I'm assuming it's because of internet, the world is all coming closer. So what advice I give for Canadian and American students would be applicable even for you. I'm assuming that you are a student. So the first thing is, I'm a strong believer in specialization. You can't be a generalist, especially if you're trying to get your first job. You can't learn hundreds of things and say, I know all those things. So pick a tool which is niche. And what I would suggest is, if you want to look at data science, one of my favorite tools is Python. So be an expert in Python. Now the next question is, where do I learn Python? So there's a lot of free resources. In YouTube, if you go, Microsoft has put, I think, 48 modules of how to learn Python. So you can learn those. You can even go to Coursera, and many of the courses in Coursera are free. So that means if you don't want a certificate, you can just take those courses and get things for free. So overall, there's a lot of free materials in the internet, provided you have the discipline. So if you have the right discipline, you can leverage those resources and use it very well. So that's number one. Next, number two, use it, not just learning it and keeping it. Use it to solve problems wherever it is. Like today, you can get data from your bank accounts. You can get data from your Fitbit. You can get data from your utility bills. So there is, wherever you go, you see data. So once you learn those techniques, use it. So that if you don't use it, it becomes kind of theory. Like it's almost like you should know which tool to apply where. That's number two. And many times, Python and a spreadsheet tool like Excel is a great combination, because sometimes you can do things more quickly with Microsoft Excel if you know how to activate this analytics tool pack and other add-ins, everything. So Python plus Excel plus number two would be to use it. Next, number three is network. Meet people. Like this is a great conference which Wilmer has arranged, right? Like here you get people from different parts of the world coming and sharing their perspectives and everything. So network with people. So in Canada, they say your network is your net worth. So network with people. And lastly, share your knowledge. So don't think that if you keep it to yourself, people will steal it and all those things. Share your knowledge so that people will validate you. Write a blog, share a code in GitHub, meet people, go to conferences and talk there and all those things. So this is where I would emphasize. Number one, just to summarize, specialization. Pick a tool or a technology which you can be a specialist. You should be really good in this. That's number one. Number two, know where to use it. Application of that thing. The third one is networking, meet people. And when you talk about networking is not about asking people, do you have a job for me? Not about that. It's about giving. Networking is all about giving. Share your knowledge. And yeah, these are the things which I would say about excelling in data science.
Okay, perfect, Professor. We have another question from Diego. And Diego, the question is, what is the best actual tools based on your experience for this process of data analytics?
Yeah, again, to Jesus's point, the most popular tool in my view, or tools in my view from data science perspective, is Python and Excel. These are the two tools which you should be very good at. But remember, Python and Excel are not data origination tools. The data could be originated in a transactional system, which could be a CRM like Salesforce, or a ERP system like SAP or Oracle or NetSuite and all those things. So data is originated there. So data origination, the data lifecycle happens much before the data science tools like Python and Excel come into the picture. So the tools from the data science perspective, I would say Python and Excel. It would also help you if you know a little bit of data engineering tools such as like Talent or MuleSoft and all those things. But I would focus on, from data science perspective, be good at Python and Excel. These two tools you should be expert. Or if needed, even R is also good, but I would prefer Python and Excel. Okay,
perfect. Thank you. We have another question, and it is in Spanish from Rocio. Let me translate. In a process of measuring a company's data governance, do you know any instrument to measure the maturity in this process? She mentioned that according to DAMA is Data Management Association, there are some criteria, but it is not clear how the maturity can be measured.
Correct. So in my company, we do that kind of work. As part of the consulting, one of the things is we measure the maturity or the health of your data and data analytics process before we recommend the solutions to the company. So in my company, for example, we look at 4 stages of the data analytics maturity. We have a questionnaire where we ask people about 85 to 100 questions, and then we assess. We look at the data as well. We look at the information that's been given, and we talk about the assessment of the maturity, and we tell the people right now, like we did a project for Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, and we told them that you are at 1.5. And in the next 6 months, we'll take you from 1.5 to 2, 1.5 out of 4. We'll take it in 6 months, we'll take it to 2, and in 1 year, we'll take you from 2 to 3. These are the things which will help you do all those things. And when you say all those things, it includes 4 major dimensions, which is process, data, technology, and governance. So there are many companies which do it. The consulting companies like Accenture, Deloitte, all of them do it. My company also, we also do it, but it all depends on, it's almost like going to a doctor and asking him, okay, is my health good? So what is he going to say? Let's define what health is. Are we talking about physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and all those things? So it's all about different philosophies these companies are adopting, and each one has their own strategy or solution to make it happen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. We have another important question for Colombia and for Latin American region. And basically the question is, in developing countries, how we can promote the data science in the industry, or how can we implement data science project? Because there is one topic that now in our countries is a new emerging field.
So if you talk the developing countries like whatever, Colombia or India, or a developed country like US or Canada, the problem is fundamentally the same. How can we promote data science in the company? That question I have even today. But you focus on the impact, the business performance. You focus on how the business is going to benefit by using data science, not by saying, oh, data is oil, blood, oxygen, and all those things. That's theory. Nobody cares about that. So you have to tell them how you can increase the growth, how you can reduce cost, how you can mitigate risk using data science. If you can put a story around that, so that's what companies are looking for, and that's how you can promote data science in Colombia or whichever region. Even in Canada, the same problem is there even here. So business impact is what I would say, and three areas of business impact: revenue, cost, risk.
Perfect, Professor. And we have another in English. And do you have more time? Yes, Professor?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And this is one from Heider. Heider mentioned that, what do you think about the future in data science?
No, there is definitely going to be a future. So in my view, it's going to become like as much as a fundamental skill, like your communication or your people skills. Like today, when you apply for a job, nobody will say you, are you good? Is your communication good? Are you good in working with people? Nobody will ask you as part of the job description. So the same thing will happen with data. So in my view, in next 5 to 10 years, when you apply for a job, whether you are a marketing analyst, whether you are a salesperson, whether you are an IT developer or whatever it is, people will assume that you know some basics of data management. So because the more and more data is captured in every company, and companies need help you to use that data and improve their business performance. So when you talk about the future, yeah, it is, in my view, I've started a company here, and I've not closed down my company. We are not a big company like Accenture or Deloitte, but we have survived. So overall, I'm very bullish about this, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. I get a lot of interesting projects. I get to meet a lot of interesting people. So overall, the future of data science is bright.
Okay, perfect. Diego have another question, and he asked, what is the basis, the notions that you need to study before a specific tool for data science? What are the relevant bases or relevant notions that you consider?
So if you are, say, for example, if you are already, let's say you get a job in a company which has got SAP platforms. So in that case, it would be better to leverage the infrastructure which is there in the company and learn more about the SAP's product, including the data science product. Like SAP has a data analytics product called SAP Analytics Cloud, SAC, they say it. So if you're already in SAP, it's better to learn that tool. On the other hand, let's say you join an university, and this university doesn't have SAP. So they're getting data from different places, from their student application, from Excel spreadsheet, from SharePoint, and all those things. So in that case, Python might be a great tool. So overall, whatever works for your company, make it happen. Like it's almost like a language. Say if you are in Colombia and you speak in Spanish. So if you come to Canada, for example, you have to speak in English. but your communication is pretty much the same, your thinking process, everything, but the construct or the language changes from Spanish to English. So it's almost like you should be able to quickly adapt from Python to R to ABAP, the ABAP to JavaScript or whatever it is, if your fundamentals are basically strong.
Perfect, thank you.
So there is one, Vilma, there's one question from Christian. The second one, which I see is about second and third party data from Christian. Can we have second and third party data from the same business partner? I mean, according to the experiment, require the data for. Yeah, you can have as from the same business customer, but at the same time getting data from your business partners. There's going to be a lot of data integration challenges. So many companies don't work on that because you have to integrate two different platforms potentially, and we bring it all together. Like, for example, and at the same time, there is also a kind of data protection. Like I was working for a audiovisual company, and they were selling all their products to the retail stores. So this company, which is in New York, went to this retail stores and said, give the data. So they got worried, they got scared. They were thinking that, OK, from tomorrow onwards, you are going to reach to the customers directly instead of coming to us. So it might look like a data problem, but actually it's a people problem because people want to feel safe and confident.
OK, perfect. If you want, we can select another question. What metrics we can use or you can recommend for know the data quality, for measurement the data quality?
Yeah. So I gave an example here when you talk about assessment, where we talk about the univariate analysis on purchase order quantity and look at the measures of centrality and spread. So there are, in that case, I think there were 22 KPIs or something on a particular attribute. So those are the measures which I typically use. Of course, they are not the only ones. Depending on the company's preference, everything, we are adding more measures on this. But that would be the starting point on assessing the data quality measures. In fact, in my book on data quality, which I believe one person is going to win it, I've listed down all those KPIs to measure data quality.
OK, and one important question is what are your source or data source of information to maintain updated in the topics of data science?
So one thing is what I do is I can tell you my strategies. What I do is I follow people in LinkedIn, especially. Where I could learn from them. So when they talk about a particular topic, I say, okay, there's something interesting. I don't know about this. Let me do some Googling and try to find out. So that's number one. Next, number two is I'm a professor and I go to school as well. I teach and I go for learning as well. So learning is like a lifelong process these days. It's not that you are done with your university and there's no need to study. That doesn't happen these days. So I go for classes as well. So every year I take some courses, I go for conferences, I meet people and all those things. So I would say the starting point these days would be LinkedIn, and then you start from there.
OK, perfect. And what do you think about R programming, statistical programming language?
Yeah, if you have, again, it's all a language, but if you're starting from scratch and if you are in kind of in a confusion, whether I should pick Python or R, I would say pick Python. But if you're already an expert in R, go with that route. Be an expert in R. So I'm a big believer in specialization and expertise.
Okay. What roles in a team do you need to begin a data government area in a big company? For example, Ecopetrol. Ecopetrol is a Colombian company about the oil and gas. It's the most important company here in Colombia. What are the roles in a team that you need to have to begin a data government area?
In the data governance, I would say the data analyst or the data governance analyst is one of the most common role. You can look at that. That's a role. But at the same time, you need to understand more about the two areas of data governance: what to govern and how to govern, and probably where to govern as well. What to govern, which I said our transactional data and critical data elements. Where to govern is a system of record, and how to govern is wherever the data moves. That means in all 4 stages of the data lifecycle.
Okay. We have another question for Andres. And Andres, appreciate your time and the opportunity to share with others the knowledge. And basically the question is, today I see most of the prescriptive analytics on the same time horizon as predictive analytics. Prescriptive and predictive analytics. Please, can you share with us some business examples of prescriptive with the further time information than predictive?
Yeah, good, great question. So predictive and prescriptive analytics go hand in hand. It's like left hand and right hand. To clap, you need both left hand and right hand. Same with for a bird, the left wing and the right wing are both important. Left wing is a predictive analytics, right wing is a prescriptive analytics. Clapping, predictive, prescriptive. You need both hands to clap. So both of them come together. That's where I think Andre's question is. There is some confusion and all those things. They're complementary. Like, let me take a business example and use and repeat the same example which I shared now. Nancy and Bob. Nancy goes to Bob and says, Bob, how much money we'll make in 2024? How much? 2024. Predictive analytics. When Bob says $375 million, she has a prescriptive analytics question. What should I do to get $400 million? She wants to know the factors, the variables, which will help us get $400 million. Prescriptive analytics is the factors which will help you get the goal which you are planning for. So predictive analytics is what is the goal for planning. Prescriptive analytics is how you can achieve those goal by looking at those variables.
Okay, the next question is about for Diego, and it's an important question. Basically, let me try to present in a good way. And what do you think that will be the impact of large language models in data science?
It's going to be huge. So in my view, today, if you look at ChatGPT, most of the questions which people are asking in ChatGPT is kind of general question. Like, for example, it could be, who is Prashant Sautekal? It could be, what is the GDP of China? Or if I say, what caused the war in Ukraine, for example, all those things which are general. But I feel going forward, it's going to be enterprise LLMs, companies which are specifically for the internal purposes of a company. Like, for example, you ask Walmart, what will be the profit in 2024? You ask Goldman Sachs, how we can reduce the cost. So those kind of questions are the ones which are going to be useful. So the future of LLMs is, in my experience, I think it's more about enterprise LLMs or to take care of privacy, security, and all the compliance aspects, and also to make the questions more contextual in nature rather than just asking some general questions on GDP and other stuff.
Okay, perfect. And we have the two questions. The last question is the next one is from Karen. And what should be the first step for excellent adoption of data quality in the industry?
So that goes back to somebody who asked about maturity assessment. The first step is assess. First step is define and assess, which is basically the DARS framework. Define your problem and then assess, because there is one joke in Canada which we often say, you cannot preach religion to a hungry man, right? So you need to have assess the problem and talk about the right solutions for the company. You can't go to an oil company and say, hey, do this project because Facebook has done it. It's meaningless to compare an oil company to a Facebook. So the first step is assess the problem so that you can talk about fixing the problem which are contextual and relevant for that particular company. So defining and assessing would be the first part of this whole problem.
Okay, Professor, we don't have more questions about the participants. Once again, I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, Wilma. Thank you very much, all of you, for it.
If you want, please, you could give me a random number to deliver the second copy of your book. In the previous session, we delivered one of them, and now we will raffle the second. And please,
Okay.
one moment, please. Let me give you the interval. One moment, please. Let me share here because we have here. Okay, I have the 94 participants.
Okay. So I'm going to pick number.
Can you give me please one number from 1 to 94?
So 74.
74. Okay, Raúl Estefano Riveros Cruz will have the second copy of your data quality book.
Okay, congratulations, Raul. I hope you'll enjoy it and you will implement some of the things which I have said in the book.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prashani, for this is a good opportunity to stay with you here today. Thank you.
Okay, see you, sir. Okay, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye. Ok, bueno, muchas gracias a todos por su participación. Espero haya sido muy provechosa la charla del Dr. Prashan. Es un referente en temas de análisis de datos, Data Analytics. Recuerden, para recordarles un poco la dinámica que mencionamos al comienzo de la presentación, en la apertura del evento, en cada momento de la charla vamos a tener un registro, un link de registro que estará solamente vigente durante la charla para que se registren y con la intención de poder sortear los libros. Digamos que es la opción que tenemos, como lo acabamos de hacer con la charla del Dr. Prashan. Tenemos más ejemplares para entregar, tenemos más libros para entregar, pues digamos, además de recibir conocimiento, de conocer de mano de la industria de la universidad en temas de Data Science, también pues hay una oportunidad enorme en adquirir este ejemplar. Es un muy buen libro, este Data Quality. Contarles que estamos explorando con el Dr. Prashan si tenemos la oportunidad de tenerlo aquí en una escuela internacional de verano, tenerlo aquí en el verano próximo, que nos ayude con algún curso de Data Quality. Estamos mirando su agenda y pues que tenga la disponibilidad para podernos colaborar y acompañar. Con la agenda estamos al día, estamos a tiempo. En 6 minuticos estaremos con María Regina de la Universidad de Santiago de Chile. Si se dan cuenta, digamos que hemos abarcado diferentes temáticas que tienen que ver con la ciencia de datos. La ciencia de datos es un área muy amplia que abarca diferentes enfoques y básicamente lo que estamos buscando en este congreso es presentar charlas de diferentes enfoques con base en la experiencia y en el conocimiento de cada uno de los conferencistas que nos han colaborado a ser parte de este magnífico evento el día de hoy. Entonces, esperamos 5 minuticos y empezamos a la 1 en punto con la presentación de la profesora Regina. Bueno, recuerden que por el chat estamos pendientes de las preguntas y durante la charla pueden ir haciendo las preguntas y conforme al tiempo que dispongamos, pues le haremos la pregunta al conferencista, al experto. Bueno, una vez más, gracias por estar acá y en 5 nos conectamos con nuestra siguiente charla, en 5 minuticos, 1 en punto.